It's summertime, so it's time to get yourself out there, close your doors, windows, build a computer, and play as many games as possible. I'm going to help you do that by showing you 10 builds that I've done. Now, in the past, we've done this in 10 videos. We're going to try to jam-pack this all together into 1 or 2 videos. And as you can see above, I got the links that go to each build in each price range. I'll briefly talk about each build and then list the expected FPS that you can get out of this build. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that I have gone to about 1,000 websites and looked up frames per second for video cards and got numbers that are as recent as I could possibly get to bring them to you to show kind of what you can expect out of the GPU-CPU combination for these builds. As always, you can go to the write-up in the description below, which takes you to our website, where I have a ton of articles that I've linked to that you can go take a look at to see where I've gathered this information. Now, basically, I'm just trying to build a computer as cheap as possible. I'm looking for rebates. I'm looking for better FPS. I'm looking for efficiency. I'm looking for whatever I can to make a computer that I would build myself. For the $300 build, we're featuring AMD's previous generation, AMD A10 6800K, which costs about $120 right now. I remember doing this build last year, and we could only get the 5800K for the same price, so it's quite a substantial upgrade to go up to the 6800K. The CPU in the A10 6800K is basically the same as the Athlon 750K, which costs around $80, and if you wanted to do that, then you could couple the Athlon 750K with a dedicated graphics card and an HD 6670. I found them for as low as $50, so it'd be pretty similar in price. But just looking at the FPS side of things, it looks like the A10 6800K is going to be your best bet here, and it really is a pretty solid option overall for the budget-minded consumer. Next up is the $400 build, which is featuring the FX 6300 and a pretty awesome graphics card in the R7 260X that'll allow you to get 77 frames per second in a game like Battlefield 4 on 1080p and medium quality settings. Hey, it's not your ultra quality settings, but you know what? Sometimes I turn it to medium anyway, and I gotta tell you, it looks pretty fantastic. So if you're looking for a budget build that's gonna play today's modern games and you're willing to tweak things a little bit, this could be the one you want. Okay, at $500, we're looking at the same price as an Xbox One. And what do you get for that? You get an FX 8320 and the R7 265, Battlefield 4 in ultra quality settings. Even with 2x MSAA on, you have 45.5 average FPS, which is very playable. If you want to go into high quality, you're going to get near 60. So for $500, you get a PC that's clearly heads and shoulders above what you could do on an Xbox One or a PS4. Going on from here, if you want to, you can also do additional research. There's other graphics cards in this range, the 750 Ti. I've got sources on the write-up. Again, that's in the description where you can check out more about that. For our $650 build, it features the FX 8320, an 8-core CPU from AMD, along with the GeForce GTX 760 Superclocked, which is going to give you for some pretty fantastic performance. This one's on rebate this month, but if you happen to come at a different time, you know, always look for different parts. I always include the rebates in these builds just because there's always rebates out there. So even if you're looking at this a month or 2, 3, 4 down the road, you can still look for a similar product. There's always going to be something that's on sale. FPS numbers look pretty fantastic, allowing you to get 57 FPS on ultra settings in Battlefield 4. For the $1,000 build, we're basically focused on quality of life improvements and overclocking, because the CPU combos here, the i5 4670K 8350 or the new Haswell Refresh i5 4690, are basically the same CPUs that we had last time, and we're going with the 4GB GTX 770 versus the 2GB from the one before. If you want to know the exact model, I'll list it in the description below and in the write-up where you can check it out. It's got a $40 rebate on it this month, which makes it $349. Tried to find one last month and it was around $400, so pretty good deal there. But we're getting a better motherboard here, a better power supply, and although I'd point you in the direction of the $800 build for performance, expected performance for this machine is obviously going to be higher. You got the Hyper 212 Evo CPU cooler, and if you're willing to tweak things a little, then you'll get substantially more performance. So that's what we wanted to focus on at this level. Okay, for our $1,250 custom gaming PC, we're going with the i5 4670K, along with the GTX 780, which has a $40 rebate right now. If you'd rather, you could also go with the R9 290, which has pretty similar performance, and you could probably get for a little bit less here. Expected performance, GTX 780 is going to give you about 70 average in Battlefield 4 Ultra, while the R9 290 is very similar at 67. A game like Crysis 3 is also very similar with just 2 FPS different. But there are games like BioShock Infinite, which as you can see has quite a substantial FPS difference. Overall, both fantastic cards, but I'm going to recommend that you go with the 780 here, and it'll also allow you to have all the intangibles that come with an NVIDIA graphics card right now, which includes G-Sync. This build also includes the half 912 case and a solid-state drive in the Samsung 840 EVO. What do you get for $1,500? You get a fantastic CPU in the i5 4670K. Now, if you do a lot of video editing, rendering, or you have some very processing intense tasks, and you might want to jump up to something like the i7 4770K. But if you're mainly a gamer, then the i5 4670K should be all you really need. Here for the graphics card, we're jumping up to the 780 Ti, and that's one of the reasons we want to save money in our processor, because we're getting a $700 graphics card. Now with the $40 rebate, you can find it for under $700, which is about 150 less than it was a few months ago. So pretty good deal there. And we've had some other graphics cards coming out lately, including the R295X2, which should certainly decrease the price of this overall, and I think you'll see that in a slight price drop. Motherboard, we're going with a good one in the Asus Z97 here, and we have a substantial wattage power supply in the CX750M. Overall, you're going to get fantastic performance with 81 average in a game like Battlefield 4, and even on very high settings in Crysis 3, an average of 73. For the $1,800 gaming rig, we are upgrading the processor to the i7 4770K. That'll give you just a little bit more options in terms of rendering and other software-intensive applications. Certainly, you don't have to go with that, but it just seemed like the right thing to do with this particular build. And it's what I do with my own build, and it's the same processor that I own right now. So for graphics card, you have the GTX 780 Ti. Again, the one with the $40 rebate. We mentioned the $1,500 build. We're upgrading to 16 gigs of RAM at this point because it's probably something you'll want down the road, and maybe something that you need right now if you're doing a lot of editing work. Power supply, we're upgrading to the CS750M Gold. A computer like this needs to be on a lot of the time, and efficiency is important, and since electricity and energy is expensive, it's a good idea over time to have a more efficient power supply. Gold gets us in that range where it's right before platinum, and you're not spending way too much, but you can still get a very, very efficient power supply. Now with the case, we're upgrading to the Carbide 300R, and we're also going to the 250 gigabyte solid state drive here. We're up in the capacity, and there's probably some of you who would rather have an even larger solid state drive. It's such a game changer in terms of everyday performance if you work on this machine. CPU cooler, we're going with the H100i. Should allow you to get a pretty massive overclock to get you where you want to be in terms of performance. Now, compared to the $1,500 gaming PC here, we're not going to see too much improvement in terms of in-game performance. But again, you should be able to have a slightly better overclock, be able to do slightly more processing, and definitely have a quality life improvement. This next build, the 10th and final build, is really for those of you who either have really intensive work applications or just have money burning a hole in your pocket. And you know what else? You can do some pretty amazing things with a build like this. It's going to feature two King of the Hill GTX 780 Ti's. We're going with that instead of the R9 295X2. You can go to my write-up to see exactly why I'm going with that. Now, if you're going to play in 4K, the R95X2 is probably the better option. Again, you're not going to have options. You're not going to have access to G-Sync here, but you get substantially more FPS. But in 1440p, I'd rather have the two GTX 780 Ti's and SLIs. So really, your choice here. Motherboard, we're going with the Asus Maximus 7 Hero. You can go with the 6 or 7 here. I just figured that as a general consensus, most people would rather go with the newer technology in the 7 Hero. And this is just about as good of an overclocking board as you can get. It's under $200, and really, unless you're trying to break records, it's where you want to be at. Other than that, we haven't changed too much in the build, except for to add that massive graphics card and get you that extra performance that you're going to need to play at 1440 or 1600p. Okay, so that's all 10 builds for the second half of 2014, and I just want to say some things out of the gate so there aren't any misunderstandings. When I made these builds, I was able to get them all within the price range because I'm using rebates and things like that. I'm trying to find the best deals. Now, if you see this in July or August, you may not be able to find the exact same parts. I'm talking about the power supply, I'm talking about the motherboard, parts that normally come up, graphics card, parts that normally come up with rebates, but you'll have your own rebates that month to go along with very similar cards and motherboards and power supplies. So if you want to stay in this price range, you're going to have to look pretty hard to do that. But you know what? If you're patient, then you'll definitely be able to find a similar build in this price range. That's all I have for this video. Like and subscribe if you like videos like these. It allows me to do more like them. You know, the summer's coming up. I'm going to have a little bit more time. So I'll probably be doing a few videos a week. I'm going to try to. You know, I said that in the past, and then I had just a few things come up that I had to take care of, but I should be pretty free from this point on. Again, you can ask me a question at facebook.com/top10gamer. You can also try the comment section below to see if our viewers want to help you with any questions that you may have. Again, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.